and then we'll just flow with it. Okay, so episode 6, according to my little book over here of On the Mark with Arpit. Welcome again, Arpit Sharma and Mark C. is here. It's been a while since we recorded our last podcast. Mark, I'm so sorry for that, but I obviously had better things to do than talk to you, which is not true, of course. I love talking to you. I was traveling a little bit, but I'm here now to talk about everything. And this time we come back to football. Our last podcast was on the IPL. It's fun to watch it right now. Mark, what do you want to cover? I'm going to throw this open to you. I know I've written it down. What do you want to talk about over the course of the next 20, 25 minutes?
Do you know what, Arpit? I'm normally watching these games because there's so much on them, isn't it? You know, and they're normally 1-0s or a 0-0, and to see that in 4 games we got 18 goals and such terrific goals that we've seen. It's just we've got to cover all of that, and also we've got to cover the weekend, which is going to be, you know, the crowning of Bayer Leverkusen, who've never won the Bundesliga. They've been there 5 times, near misses, runners up, but. Yeah, it's going to be a good week in football for the people who love football anyway.
Yeah, okay, fine. So those are the things, major points that we're going to talk about. You spoke about the 18 goals in 4 matches, so we're obviously talking about the Champions League Quarterfinals. We'll dive in, and possibly Dortmund might not get the most attention from us. But just the fact that we got, like you mentioned, 18 goals, Mark, no one predicted that.
Well, if Atletico Madrid are scoring 2, you know it's a free-flowing week, don't you, for football? Yeah, and not only that, but the quality of some of the play was just unbelievable, let alone the goal scoring, but the quality of play that was on show. It's a dream for any supporter to be able to have 4 games or 4 games like we've had. And yeah, I was like mesmerized to the point where I fell asleep in the second batch of games because it was a little bit too late for me. But yeah, it was just unbelievable, you know. And you see the array of talent that's on the park, and you know, we're talking about these teams as if, you know, they've got no chance. Bayern Munich, I'm saying Bayern Munich haven't got a chance of winning, and yet they've put up one of the best performances of the season, albeit from a totally different tactic. They were very much counter-attacking, weren't they? So loads of different things that I seen in the week that made me be in love with football again. You know, it's a bit of a stereotype, but what we've seen during the week were top clubs, top players, and performing to their maximum. I mean, you know, young Foden, that goal. Obviously, Valverde, that goal. Just unbelievable. Yeah. And I'm looking so much forward to the second part of this, because, you know, what are we going to get then when it's all, you know, they're the games that you want to see, because they're going all for it, aren't they? But it seems like they went for it in the first leg as well. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, the first legs were supposed to be cagey, but anything but. Okay, so I'm going to let you and get it out of the way, because even before the show yesterday, I was doing this little prep about them, and during the show also I mentioned, you know, a lot of people talk about them being a boring side, sound side. That's how they get the wins. This season, Mark, before the quarterfinal stage started, the only team that scored more goals than them was Manchester City. So Atleti was second in the list of those 8 teams that made it to the quarterfinals. And after last night, they're still averaging more than 2 goals a game. So Atletico Madrid, from our perception, we're obviously not watching too many of their matches, but something's changed there, and Diego Simeone is getting the goals. 4 matches to cover. I'll start with Bayern, and we didn't discuss this before we started recording. Are you still standing by what you said about Bayern Munich crashing out?
Yeah, to the point where we were going to offer a prize, weren't we? But I seen a different team. I mean, obviously the league's gone for them, and obviously the manager's not going to be there. But I just seen a totally different tactic from. They're normally used to dominating games in the Bundesliga, so dominating in possession, in all the stats, and then obviously they're going to Arsenal, who dominate with possession in lots of their games in the Premier League. And I just thought, you know, the way we've seen them playing and the way they defended, they were there for the taking. But my goodness, Arsenal come out of this feeling lucky that they've got a 2-2 draw out of it, because give it to Bayern Munich and give it to Harry Kane. He was outstanding on the night, not just, for goal scoring, just his overall general play. He was a proper centre forward, held the ball up, and he roughed up the defence as well. He took a lot of punishment. So the only thing I will say, Arpit, on this is that they're at home now at the Allianz Arena. The pressure is very much on them to go out. They can't counter-attack at home. They need to go out on the front foot. And will that, fall into Arsenal's way of thinking? Because we've seen them go abroad and be very, very defensive. But as I say, it's on a knife edge because both teams need to score at least one goal to get through.
Yep. I was just checking my internet connection, or maybe my headphones were working weird. I thought you complimented Harry Kane. I've never heard that before, I think.
Yes, it's the one and only time. But I tell you, and he was absolutely outstanding. I mean, from a centre-half's point of view, he would have been a real handful for me, because we've seen that both of the two centre-halves for Arsenal this year have dominated right the way through the season, but they couldn't handle Harry Kane in the midweek. So all kudos to him. And yet you're right, it's only once, and that'll stay as the one time I give him any sort of credit.
No, it's incredible because it's in midweek where Haaland has been criticized, Kylian Mbappe has been criticized. So listening to you say something good about Harry Kane is very, very refreshing. But you didn't answer my question completely. Are we still standing by the giveaway? Do you want to talk about it? Or are you now, after that first leg, saying, maybe I should not?
Well, I think we should leave it for another day, I would have thought. But can we say what it would have been or not? Because I was speaking to you, wasn't I? And I was so convinced that Arsenal would beat Bayern Munich. I said to you, let's offer a couple of days in Goa for anybody at our expense, 2 days at this Hermitage Riviera. If whoever, comes on and looks at the show and, we can put them into a hat at the end of the show if Bayern Munich beat them. I don't think they'll beat Arsenal. I think my bet will still carry. But yeah, I think that's what you're alluding to, aren't you? Should we still do it or not?
Yeah, I think you're glad that I was a little unwell over the past 2 days and we didn't get to record this podcast, because we would have gone ahead and made this offer. So for now, okay, we'll put it on hold right now, because Bayern Munich surprised everybody, not just us. They surprised everybody with the kind of performance they put in. Okay, we'll come to PSG Barcelona. I want to talk about Madrid, Man City, the last, because it was, for me, the best game of the round, of the first legs. PSG Barcelona, Mark, and we spoke about how Luis Enrique had this interview about whose style fits Barcelona, and he said mine. And it wasn't just what he said, it was the way he said it. Came across as extremely confident. That's the term I would use. And then PSG, of course, losing to Barcelona, a Barcelona that struggled the entire season we've spoken about. What did you make of that result?
A great result for Barcelona. Obviously, going to France isn't easy. PSG, I've always said this, will always come up short, because the standard of the competition that they play week in, week out dictates that they're never going to get to the latter stages, your semis or your finals, because the teams that they're playing against are playing against such better opposition on a regular basis. And we've seen that to a certain extent. Barcelona wasn't, the archetypal Barcelona team that you've seen in the past. We're looking at it and thinking, they're there for the taking. And I'm sure the Barcelona fans were looking at PSG and thinking, well, they're for the taking as well. And when you've got the likes of PSG, it shouldn't be called PSG. It should just be called Mbappe FC, shouldn't it? Because that's all we ever talk about. They've got good players in there as well. And, Dembele got a great goal in the game. But give it to Barcelona and give it to the squad in general. It's not a super exciting squad. They've got a few injuries as well, but what a result! And out of all of the teams, I think they're the ones that have got the advantage going into the second leg, because obviously they're 1 goal up. Not because of that, but if PSG have to go out against the Nou Camp against Barcelona, they could get destroyed because, you know, defensively I don't think they're that good. But again, we looked at that, the quality that was on show, and the goals that was scored, and yeah, it was just a fantastic night, but a great night for Barcelona actually, because I thought they were another team a little bit, you know, like Dortmund and a little bit like Bayern Munich, who I didn't think will progress to the next round or the semi-finals. But out of all of them, I think Barcelona are the ones that have got the biggest chance.
Yep, and they came through against Napoli also with surprising ease, if I may say this. We did expect them to struggle against Napoli, even though Napoli were having the kind of topsy-turvy season that they did. Can PSG turn it around? Let's talk about him not having a shot on target as well against Barcelona. Can Mbappe and PSG turn it around?
Well, I mean, we've seen Barcelona over the years have a certain player in their ranks who, you know, can turn games on the head, and that was Lionel Messi. You know, Mbappe is PSG's Lionel Messi, isn't he? If he's on fire, if he's on good form, then of course they can turn it around. But there's too many variables with Mbappe at the moment. You know, his head doesn't look as though it's right. He's obviously thinking about leaving at the end of the season, what club he's going to go to. It just doesn't seem to be the same Mbappe. And, you know, these players are only human as well. And obviously things are going around his head. You know, he's falling out with manager. He wants to leave, or he's going to leave at the end of the season. So what I will say on that, if he's got his head on straight, it gives them a 50% better chance of getting a result. If his head's not on straight, then got no chance.
Okay. We'll, of course, find out just another week to go, and then we'll find out. We'll get some rest before it, because, Mark, you don't want the second halves of all those second leg as well. Real versus Manchester City, the game of the week. I think 90% of the people expected it to be KG. 6 goals in that one. First up, just how good were Manchester City away from home?
Very good. But they've conceded 3 goals. And that's the Achilles heel for Man City all the season, has been conceding of the goals. And this is, it's a great result in many ways, you know, away from home and whatnot. It was a good result, but they had the perfect start, didn't they? You know, with Bernardo Silva, that free kick, the keeper was a little bit, you know, dreaming, and they got off to a really good start. And I'm thinking, okay, now you can dominate like they normally do in terms of possession. But again, you're playing against the Real Madrid team who have players in their ranks that can turn games on their head. And then they conceded 2 goals in the next 10 minutes to turn this game on its head as well. So it was a great game for the neutral. For a purist or a coach or a manager, you might be tearing your hair out a little bit in terms of defensive-wise. But having said all of that, what we've seen in this game, Arpit, is probably 2 of the best goals you'll see all season. And that was Foden, when he's got it out of his feet and he's curled it in the top corner. And Valverde, the technique that Valverde showed with the volley across the keeper. The keeper didn't even move. And to do that at that level in such a high-intensity game, it just shows you the quality that was on display. And 3-3, wow. These are the games that you dream of, aren't they? You know, when you're thinking, you're dreaming, and you're going to bed, and it's like me when I go to bed at half-time. It was probably 2-1, I think it was, and I'm thinking, this is going to be KG. And then I wake up, and it's 3-3 again, and I'm thinking, how did that happen? But, yeah, it was great. And all of these games, for one reason or another, are all on a knife edge, aren't they? Because we see Man City last year destroy Real Madrid in Manchester, didn't we? So there's loads of different variables in all the games, and I'm glad, because there's not one that's outright done and dusted. So we've got another amazing night or 2 amazing nights of football next week. So yeah, long may that continue. I might have to get all of my 40 winks in and stay in bed for a few extra hours in order to stay up later?
No, actually, I was going to say, actually, for the sake of all football fans around the world, go to sleep, because when you go to sleep, you get some really exciting matches. So don't stay awake. The last time in the FA Cup, you went to sleep, Liverpool, Manchester United was one of the best games you said last night, and goals are scored. So don't stay awake. It's okay. Go to sleep. We'll tell you. But you're covering the games as well, so you do have to stay awake.
I'll add one thing to that. I've got to stay awake. Yeah.
Okay. So Real Madrid, they got the 3 goals as well, and all over them. Were you surprised that they had the fight in them after conceding early?
Who, Real Madrid?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're at home, aren't they? And it was under the roof. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. And of course, I mean, they knew they would have been up against it, because the one thing you don't want to do against Man City is concede early. But one of our other pundits, David James, always says, if you score early, that's not a good thing. So this was obviously not a good thing for Man City, but it was a great thing for the game, because, two goals well, 3 goals in 14 minutes. And you're thinking, wow, go in at half time, get your... I would have thought, Arpit, at half time, Guardiola will have been saying to his players, 2-1, that's okay. Let's leave it at that. We don't need to go pushing to get the equaliser. Let's just take it back to Manchester. You know what we can do there. And then, wow, Foden scored that one, didn't he? And obviously Vardy put them 3-2 up. And now he's in a world, isn't he, of pleasure with this 3-2. And then they concede again. This is the only thing that I can say about Manchester City this season. Going forward, and forget Haaland not scoring and not playing well and whatever. Defensively, they do struggle at times, and I don't know how many goals they've conceded this year, but it'll be a lot more than what they've ever conceded previously, I'm sure.
Okay, so 6 goals there. Anything else that we want to talk about? I think we've covered the first leg.
Yes, can we just
talk about?
I want to talk about one thing. In the Arsenal game, there were 2 incidents, and I don't know whether you've seen them. One where
of course I have. We covered it as well.
Yeah,
go on.
So at the time I didn't even notice the first one, which is Saliba, I think it was, got the ball and handled the ball in the area. But the other one for me was the Saka penalty. Yeah. But the Saka penalty at the end. Oh, Gabriel, sorry. But Saka, the penalty, forget that other one. This one was the one that I was looking at. And it was literally the last second of extra time. And initially, I've just gone absolute penalty. But I thought the referee did a cop-out and blew up without it going to either VAR or him making a decision on it. Because looking back on it, I do think it was a penalty. Now, Saka made the most of it, but I do think there was a movement in Neuer's leg that...
Yeah.
And there were 2 things in that. He should have scored the goal anyway, but he decided to try and go for the penalty and got neither. So, yeah, they were the 2 controversial things in midweek for me. I don't know what your thoughts are on the penalty. Did you think it was a penalty?
I'm going to ask you something different. I'm going to ask you about the Liverpool United game. We couldn't obviously cover it, so I'm going to draw parallel to that game, which Anthony Taylor awarded a penalty to Liverpool for Harvey Elliott going down on a tackle from Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I didn't think that was a penalty.
Oh, so you must have thought it was a penalty at the time.
That was a penalty. I would say that.
You must have thought it was a penalty.
Watching multiple replays of it.
But my point is, they never even looked at it. He just blew the whistle, and it was the biggest cop-out I've seen for a long time from a referee, because it was literally the last second in the game, and to not have a VAR and to not look at it again, it was strange. But as I said, they're the two things I looked at and I thought, wow, that Saka penalty, that could be the difference with getting through to the semi-final and possibly winning it, and not. And it's a lot of money, isn't it, in terms of revenue for these clubs. So, yeah, it was an interesting decision, and no one said anything about it. No one. It's just gone under the radar for me. But hey ho.
Interesting. You said that the referee had a cop out, because even what he said about the Gabriel incident was it was a kid's mistake. I'm not going to give such a decision in the quarterfinal of a Champions League, which is
crazy.
You know, a mistake is a mistake.
A penalty is a penalty, isn't it? At the end of the day,
pretty crazy.
And that's at the highest level. This is at the highest level. Forget about the football. These referees are at the highest level in their world as well. So yeah, strange, but it's nicely poised still anyway.
Yeah, very, very strange. Yep, ended in a draw, so obviously all to play for Man City, Arsenal, and Bayern. PSG trailing, have to make a comeback, and Atleti leading Dortmund at home. We'll just cover the Bundesliga. You wanted to talk about Bayer Leverkusen, of course, but before that, just Dortmund. And I asked this to Terry Phelan as well yesterday. Dortmund blow hot and blow cold. We know that. Do you think they've blown cold enough in the last two matches to actually give us a performance against Atleti in the next one?
Well, I mean, what they're doing, Dortmund, they're fighting on two fronts now. They're fighting on getting the fourth place or the third place in the Bundesliga, the Champions League places, and also the fighting to get to the semi-final. Out of the 8 teams that are there, I think Dortmund by far are the it's not to say the worst team, but not the best team. They're probably the weakest out of the 8, and they're not going to win the Champions League. So I think they should. I mean, they're going to take each game on its own merits. No, I've never known a footballer to go out and think to themselves, I'm going to take it easy here on Tuesday night because we've got a cup final on Saturday. That doesn't happen. The nature of the beast tells you you're trained to go out and play and perform. And it doesn't matter whether it's against Atletico Madrid or whether it's against Heidenheim or whatever it is. They know what's at stake. So, yeah. But again, at the weekend, they need to put a front foot forward. Does the manager, Terzic, put out a good team? Or does he go the other way and say, we'll try and get through to the semi-finals? So, yeah, that's it. Dortmund are so inconsistent. If you were a betting man and you had 100 rupees to put on a team, I don't think it would be Dortmund, would it, that you'd put on, because you don't know what you're going to get off them. So it's a big week for them because they do really need to. They've got themselves, I think, the 5th in the Bundesliga now. Leipzig leapt above them, but they're too inconsistent, mate. And I don't think the squad is that big and doesn't have the depth of quality that other teams do.
Okay, so we'll figure out what Dortmund does next week, but we'll come to one of our favorite teams right now, Bayer Leverkusen, Mark. And when Bayer Leverkusen played, was it Der Klassiker? I think it was Der Klassiker when Dortmund beat Bayern, and we said there were three wins that Bayern actually lost after that as well. So now they actually don't need a win to have the title. They just need to wait to see if Bayern, and I know you're going to mention Stuttgart as well, but everyone's just talking about Bayern probably losing on the weekend and Bayer Leverkusen winning the title.
But can you imagine a scenario? Bayern Munich are playing Saturday. I think Stuttgart are playing Saturday. So Leverkusen could actually win the league without even kicking a ball. But Bayern Munich are playing FC Cologne, who are second from bottom. I don't know who Stuttgart are playing, but yeah, it might be a really nice weekend for Bayer Leverkusen. I mean, they've got a big game. Is it tonight? I think they're playing tonight, aren't they, in the Europa? Yeah, I mean, they'll still want to keep their record intact. But yeah, it'll be a great, because, we've all had the jokes, haven't we? Bayer Leverkusen and all the rest of it. And they've missed the title on 5 different occasions, haven't they, over the years? And, if there's one team in the Bundesliga, and let alone across Europe, that deserves to win the title, it's got to be Bayer Leverkusen. You know, to go through a season like this unbeaten and to score as many goals as they do, to dominate the games as many times as they have, and the way they play in such a free-flowing game that, you know, if you look at the players that they do have, you know, Florian Wirtz has been instrumental. Boniface has just come back into the squad after injury. You've got Frimpong, you've got Xhaka, you've got all of these players, and obviously you've got the manager, haven't you, Xabi Alonso, who, you know, has said to Liverpool, I'm not going to you. I've said to Bayern Munich, I'm going to stay at Bayer Leverkusen. Will it be a mistake? I think it will be, but he seems to have confidence in his own ability. So fair play. It was a huge season for him, and what a learning curve for him to have this. And not many managers in their first full year of management, proper management, you know, do this. It's just unheard of.
Are you saying that there's a chance that Bayer Leverkusen will do a Leicester?
In what respect? Win? Oh, and go down next year? No, I don't think they'll go down.
In the respect of, yeah.
No, what I will say though, Arpit, on that is I've seen it so many times where managers. So I don't know what the remit was for Xabi Alonso before the season from the people above, you know, the CEOs and the chairman and whatnot. It wouldn't have been to win the Bundesliga. It will have been to have built on what they did last year. And when he first came to the club, they were 17th in the Bundesliga, and he got them into the Europa League. So let's build on that, and so on and so forth. Now he's built on it to such an extent that he's built this monster, hasn't he, called Bayer Leverkusen, where they're unbeaten all season. So where did they go from that next year? They've won the Bundesliga. They got to the depths of the Europa League. They might even win it. They're in the cup final of the Pokal. So where can they go from that? You know, and so what happens then is, Arpit, is people get disgruntled because, it was like we were beating everybody last year, and now all of a sudden, you know, we're not, and we're third in the league when we should be third. And then the expectation levels are so high. And football being football, which is this weird world, there's no rhyme or reason to any of the decisions that any board make. And they pander a lot of times to the public opinion. And I just hope that doesn't happen to him there. You know, I hope he can go on and win the Bundesliga again and maybe go deep into the Champions League or whatever it is. But fair play to him. You know, it's a big thing, because he could have gone and took the money. He could have gone to one of the big boys, and you know, his reputation would be intact. So it's an interesting move from him.
It definitely is, and we'll obviously figure out whether it was the right one or the wrong one next season. But I think we've covered pretty much the games that we wanted to talk about. Liverpool are tied in top position with goal difference. Are we going to discuss that quickly before we sign off?
Well, we can do. I think it's such a great league, isn't it? With the three of them all in. I mean, last week, the top team changed three times. It was Man City, then it was Liverpool, and then it was Arsenal, depending on the results in the games. And that's what we want, isn't it? That's what the supporters want, to be able to, you know, have this. Like in the Bundesliga, it's done and dusted now, and they've got 6 games to go. But the Premier League is still so tight, and anything can happen. But they're all in, like Liverpool are still in the Europa League. You know, Arsenal is still in the Champions League. Manchester City is still in the Champions League. So they're fighting on all fronts. And it'll just be interesting to see. It'll come down to a war of attrition, I think. The team that can just get themselves over the line, because every game they're playing now, Arpit, is a cup final, isn't it? You know, and they need, I mean, we're all saying it's in Arsenal's hands. Well, it's not in Arsenal's hands, and it's not in Manchester City's hands. It's in Tottenham's hands, because Tottenham are playing all three of them at some point in the last games of the season. So they have a big bearing on who's going to win it also. So if I was looking as a supporter, not having any relevance to any team, I would want to watch the Premier League the way it is at the moment. It's so exciting.
It definitely is. And it's only 9 goals that Liverpool need to catch up with the goal difference.
Well, not if Nunes has the opportunity.
They can definitely do it. Considering the number of chances they're creating in every game. All right. Well, that's about the time that we have for episode 6 of On the Mark with Arpit. Thank you for listening in. Hope you've had as much fun as both of us have had renewing this conversation, and we'll try not to take such a long break between episodes. Goodbye for now.